MBA admissions for older and younger applicants. I also want to thank very much Gmat Club for hosting this event. And I want to thank Abhijit, who's in the background, who set up the whole thing. Now, the topic, as you all know, is MBA admissions for older and younger applicants. And I think that the first thing we have to define is kind of what is the typical MBA applicant? What is the applicant who is neither younger nor older? And that is MBA applicants who have 3 to 8 years of full-time work experience post-college upon matriculation. That means the typical age is between 25 and 30, since most people graduate college, at least in the United States, at age 22. However, again, in the United States in particular, the amount and quality of work experience is much more important than your age, which US schools actually aren't allowed to consider. So when we talk about older applicants, we're really talking about more experienced applicants. When we talk about younger applicants, we're really talking about those who have less experience. To get more specific, older would be those people with 9+ years of full-time work experience, and younger would be those with less than 3 years of full-time work experience. So what I'd like to go through, now that we kind of know what is neither older or younger, are first the options for the older students, and then the options for the younger students. Okay, so let's start with older students. And they have basically 3 options: executive MBA programs, Sloan Fellows programs, and I'll get to what those are, and full-time MBA programs. And yes, it is possible to get into a full-time MBA program as an older applicant. So let's discuss first executive MBA programs. Wharton, whose lobby you see here, is one of the more prominent executive MBA programs, and it actually has one in Philadelphia and one in San Francisco. The pros and MBA programs are part-time programs aimed at those people with 9+ years of experience. Typically, Wharton actually is a little bit younger, but most of them are 10, 15, even 20 years of full-time work experience. And again, they are part-time, and that is one of their strengths and weaknesses. You don't have to stop working. You don't have to miss out on 2 years of income, and you can apply what you learn immediately. What you learn at class in the evening, you can apply the next morning on the job. Again, it's aimed, and these are programs designed for more experienced students, where it's easier to learn from your peers who have similar levels of experience or perhaps more experience than you do. Sometimes older MBA students, they feel like their younger peers just don't have the maturity and wisdom experience that they have, and they're missing out a little bit. They're also easier to get into than full-time MBA programs, both in terms of average stats, especially the test score, and in terms of acceptance rates. The cons of the executive MBA program, the negatives of those programs, is again, that it's part-time. It's really hard to work full-time at a demanding job and go to school part-time. And if you add family responsibilities on top of that, it's even harder. It is a non-immersive experience, which means you're always juggling. You're juggling the work and you're juggling the school responsibilities, and you're never fully committed to either one. It's a non-immersive experience, so you don't have all the extracurricular and enrichment kinds of activities that you would have in the full-time program. There's less financial aid available. There are career sources for executive MBAs, but they're somewhat more limited. Then you don't have the whole recruiting cycle that's typical of the full-time MBA. And there is somewhat a reputation of MBA light to the executive MBA program. I think that's declining, but I think it also is still there on some level. Now, the Sloan Fellows programs are offered at MIT Sloan and at Stanford MSX. There's also London Business School Sloan Fellows program. But the Stanford MSX used to be a Sloan Fellows program and still is very similar to them. In that, what makes them Sloan Fellows programs is they are 1-year immersive programs, usually for people with 10+ years of work experience. Sometimes they'll go for 8. 14 years is average, typical. They're for people in middle management aiming for senior management, and they are full-time, fully immersive programs. Okay, usually 10 months, 1-year programs. There is obviously an opportunity cost because you're going to leave your job for a year, but it's less than for the 2-year programs. They have excellent reputation and brand. You are learning with experienced colleagues, so the issue of learning from younger colleagues isn't there. But and they have an excellent reputation and brand. The cons of the Sloan Fellows, or these 1-year immersive programs for older MBA students, is that they're expensive because you have to take time off work for a year. You may need to move because they are not remote, or I don't even think they're remote now, at least not fully remote. And you have more limited career resources than in the full-time program, and also less financial aid than in the full-time programs. Now, the full-time MBA programs for older applicants, again, it's the full-time, immersive, transformative MBA program. There is definitely more financial aid available. There are more career resources and networking opportunities than in the part-time program, though the Sloan Fellows also offers a lot of networking opportunities. You have the travel opportunities when there's no COVID. And, so it's the full MBA experience. The cons, the negatives of that experience for older applicants is that it requires 2 years off work at a point in your career where you're making more money and you could be at a higher level and perhaps advancing. I don't have acceptance stats on acceptance rates for people over a certain age, but I believe that acceptance rates go down over that age. You're also going to end up studying with much less experienced students, your colleagues, and that sometimes is a negative. And while you have access to the full range of career services, the career services that you do have access to are aimed at people who have 3 to 8 years of experience and are typically in their late 20s. So that makes schools a little bit concerned about the realism of your goal in choosing a full-time MBA program. To address this concern, if you do choose to apply to a full-time MBA program, you need to show that you need an MBA now. And not that, in other words, so your post-MBA goal is really, really important. It's important for younger applicants as well, but it's more important for the older applicant because the realism of your goal is going to be critical to your acceptance. The other thing that I want to emphasize is that you shouldn't emphasize why you didn't get an MBA earlier. If they ask why now, why are you choosing to apply now, the question is, why is the right time for you now? Not, your visa got in the way earlier, or I don't know what, you paying off student debt, whatever it was. That's not the question they're asking you. They're asking you, why is the right time now? And again, in terms of realism, of goal, you may, depending upon how much experience you have and what your goals are, you may want to, at some point in the application or the interview, point out that you are not relying on the Career Center to find you your job. You may be returning to your own company. You may be either returning to or joining a family business or planning to start your own business, or you have the kind of network that will allow you to get the job on your own, because that's sometimes what a lot of schools are concerned about if admitting older applicants to a full-time MBA program. Okay, so those are the 3 main options for older applicants. Again, it's the Executive MBA, the Sloan Fellows types of programs, which are usually shorter, 1-year programs. You could possibly consider IMD in this model because it is a little bit older and it is also a 1-year immersive program. And then the third one would be actually going for a full-time MBA. All right, let's switch and let's go to options for younger students. So the first option that early career applicants have are the Master's in Management programs, business analytics programs, Master's in Finance programs. These are usually 1-year programs, and they typically are aimed at people with less than 2 years of full-time work experience. But some of these programs actually want students with no full-time work experience. So make sure you check the requirements, the experience requirements. That's really important. The Master's in Management is much more common and popular in Europe than it is in the United States. But in the United States, we do have some, specifically at Duke, Ross for non-business majors. And there are some others. They are very prominent Masters in Management programs here. In Europe, you have London Business School, INSEAD, HEC, all have Masters in Management programs, and there are many others also. The benefits of getting a Master's in Management is that you're going to you're going to get your graduate business education when the opportunity cost is much lower. Obviously, if you're right out of college, this is when your earning potential is at its lowest of your entire post-college career. You'll get a great foundation in business, and then you can combine that with what you studied as an undergrad, because most of these Master's in Management programs are aimed at people coming from non-business majors. So perhaps you majored in a STEM field other than, again, not business. Perhaps you did something in social sciences, and now you want to add a business component to your education. This is a great time to do it. You may not need an MBA later. And again, most MBA programs are 2 years. So here you get a 1-year program, you do it early in your career, so the opportunity cost is lower. So financially, there's a very good argument to be made for that. And if you do decide later on that you want or need an MBA, you may even qualify for one of the shorter 1-year MBA programs, like at Cornell Johnson's Accelerated MBA, Kellogg's 4Y, 4-quarter rather, option, or again, Duke is now offering a shorter MBA program, an accelerated MBA program for graduates of its Master's in Management program. The MIM is on the negative side. The MIM is still not as prestigious as the MBA. And obviously, it's it doesn't allow you to specialize the same degree that the MBA does. It's only a 1-year program. And again, you still may want the MBA later, and you may choose to go for the 2-year MBA. So in that case, you would have had the 1-year MIM and then or MMS, depending upon the acronym that's used, and then you'll be taking off 2 years later on. So that's another potential con. There also are for current college students, usually bachelor's, sometimes master's, deferred MBA admissions programs. These are increasingly popular. They were popping up like crazy last year and the year before. And indeed, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, Yale, Columbia, Darden, Kellogg, Booth, and MIT all offer these programs. And with these programs, you get accepted upon graduation from college, or in some cases, grad school. You work for 2 to 5 years and then start your MBA. Yale's deferred program, the Yale Scholars program, works a little differently in that you graduate from college and you immediately do your first year at Yale. You then have an internship. I think it can be 1 to 2 years. It might just be 1. And then you rejoin Yale for the second year of your MBA. Now, the big advantage of these programs is that you graduate college or start your career knowing that you are accepted at a top MBA program. You can experiment a little and take risks with your career, if you will, before starting the MBA without worrying how this period will impact your MBA admissions. So what kind of risks could you take? You could start your own business. You could join Peace Corps, do an internship, perhaps in the political arena or the governmental arena. You can try different things out, knowing that however it works out, you are in at a top MBA program. What are the negative aspects to these programs? Well, the biggest negative or the biggest con is that they're very hard to get into. They're extremely competitive. Schools are offering these programs because they want to nab the superstars among you. Now, HBS is also trying to encourage through this program people from non-business backgrounds and people from disadvantaged backgrounds to apply, so that can be somewhat helpful. But in general, again, they're wanting the superstars. So how do you get in? Well, you provide the schools with all the things that you need for an MBA, but a little bit more, except for work experience. Above average grades, above average test scores, above average impact, leadership, clarity of goals, all those things. The only thing you don't need, however, is full-time work experience. Again, for most of them, the majority of them. They will want to see yes to internships, yes to high impact on-campus activity, and to entrepreneurship. Plus, some HBS want to see how you will use the freedom that having this acceptance will give you. In other words, they also want to know what are your plans for the period of time before you return to do your MBA. So another option for early career applicants is to simply wait 3 to 5 years and apply at a time when you are, in terms of your experience, more competitive. You'll have established perhaps a post-college record of professional achievements and maybe taken the opportunity to mitigate some weaknesses, whether it's a GPA that you're less than proud of, a test score that didn't work out the way you wanted. Maybe you weren't quite as active on campus as you wish you had been, and now you can get active in an alumni organization or a professional organization or a community service organization. In other words, you can enhance your profile before you apply. The other option is, of course, for early career applicants to apply now to full-time programs. The programs listed on the screen now, which is going to change momentarily, those programs that have the deferred option are going to be extremely difficult to get into straight from college or as an early career applicant. If you do apply with less than 3 years of work experience, whether it's to these programs or to programs without the Deferred Mba programs, realize that you have to show that you've accomplished in college or in whatever amount of work experience you have what others take 4 to 6 years to accomplish. And by that, I mean growth on the job, impact, leadership, etc. There are programs that accept a few people straight from college and that don't have deferred admission programs. NYU Stern kind of stands out, and it actually has the Berkeley Scholars program, which is aimed specifically at people who want to get their MBA right after college. It used to have an entrepreneurial focus, but when I looked it up the other day, it didn't. So, just check it out. And again, you have to have all the things that the deferred admit programs are looking for in terms of grades, scores, and internships and kind of in-college experience, plus evidence of maturity. Now, before we go to the Q&A, I'd like to invite attendees to take advantage of 2 free assessment tools. Well, there's another resource, applies an early career applicant to full-time MBA programs. I'm going to let you, if you want, you can just Google that, exhibit.com, applies an early career applicant to full-time MBA programs, and you'll get that. Here's the assessment tools I wanted to invite you to take advantage of. One is for full-time MBA admissions. One is for deferred MBA admissions. They're not specifically geared to younger or older applicants, but they are here for you to take advantage of. And again, get both an assessment of your chances as well as advice for how to improve areas of possible weakness. And with that, I'm going to start taking your questions. I'll give you another second to write down these resources, and then I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I think that's the key to me seeing your questions. You can also, if you're, okay, so I'll just wait a second, and then let's stop sharing. Okay. So if you want to post your questions, you got lots of questions here. Okay. All right. So the first question is from Geeky Roger Morris. I'm a young applicant with just 2.5 years of work experience, but I have won numerous hackathons during my undergrad. Will such achievements play significant leverage? Okay. When we talk about amount of work experience, number one, and I'm talking about it at matriculation. So if you have 2.5 years of work experience now and you're applying to begin school in next September, whoops, my screen just jumped, then you will have 3.5 years of work experience. So you would then no longer be considered a younger applicant. That's number one. Number two, hackathons, it really depends on your role in the hackathon. Were you working with a team? Were you working on your own? If you're working on a team, were you leading the team? Were you contributing as a team member? It's not so much that you had this technical skill. It's, do you have the qualities that business schools are going to be looking for? They have tons of people who have excellent technical skills in business. What they're looking for is people who have the teamwork and leadership and communication skills that will make you an effective manager and leader on the job. So if you're going to talk about the hackathon, it's not the technical skill or the technical problem that you solved. Yes, that shows intelligence. But what's going to really set you apart is the interpersonal skills that you may or may not have exhibited in that hackathon. Okay. So I hope that helps you, Roger. So let's go. Now we have a question from Kim. Hi, Linda. Thank you for speaking to us. I'm 32, but served with 3 years in the military, hence my older profile. Do I stand a chance for the MBA? I kind of feel sorry that I'm older. Well, I hope that you shouldn't feel sorry, number one. Not much you can do about it. But you shouldn't feel sorry about it. You shouldn't feel sorry for yourself. I think the challenge for you, first of all, military experience is highly valued by business schools and by business. What I think you need to do is show the realism in terms of your goal and the leadership and impact that they're going to want to see from somebody who's been working for, if I'm going to guess, 7 years. So after the military. So, make sure, don't apologize for your experience. Make sure you're realistic about your career opportunities when you graduate, when you'd be 35, and also make the most of what you've done in the past. Okay. And you may want to look, we have an article on the site. Let me see if I can find it. On applying. Yeah, there, that's it. Applying to regular MBA programs as an older applicant. It's a very good article on what you can do in that regard. I don't think you're quite old enough for or have the experience yet for the Sloan Fellows programs, but you can also look into those. All right, let's see what else we have here. Okay, Gurja asks, is it true that many U.S. business schools do not prefer candidates over 30? I'm 32, and many people have discouraged me from applying to USB schools. Well, 30 is no issue. Most business schools, the average age, I think, is 28 or 29, so 30 is really no issue. When you get to 32, that's, I think, already where you probably have 10 years of work experience. You're going to graduate at 35. And then again, the realism of your goals comes into play. All those things that I discussed earlier come into play. I would again recommend this article to you for further input and advice. And if you've been working for 10 years, you may want to very well consider one of the Sloan Fellows programs, which are geared towards people much more like you. Okay. All right, Pratik asks, I'm 31 and already have done my MBA from Indian University in 2013. Since then, I am working. I am planning to do full-time second MBA from US, UK. Need your suggestions. All right, if you already have an MBA, first of all, you have to make sure that the schools you're applying to will consider you at all. Most of them will, okay, but you should check, especially in the UK. But even in the US, it isn't always an MBA in the US sense. So just double check with the schools. That's number one. If you do apply, if it is considered an MBA and you apply going for a second MBA, make sure you address this question somewhere in your application. You don't have to address it directly, but make sure that it is addressed. What do you want to do that the second MBA will enable you to do that the first MBA is not enabling you to do? If it's just brand, that's not good enough. Okay, again, what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve that you cannot do now that your second MBA will enable you to do? And again, it can't just be brand. Okay, let's move on. All right, Mimi asks, hey, is it compulsory to take foundation of all core subjects or just technical subjects if I'm just from business background and not analytics or MIS? I don't really understand the question. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. All right. Will joining a full-time program at the age of 33, is it too late? No. It's harder, but it's not too late. Nitin, I have 9+ years of experience and want to apply to a full-time MBA. I am in HR consulting space and want to move post-MBA into HR consulting or HR strategy roles. Okay, there's no question here, so I'm not quite sure what's being asked. Let's move on. I'm 34. Am I too late for European one-year programs? It really depends how old you're going to be at matriculation. And also, you have to just check with the programs individually. There was a time when I know INSEAD for sure had an age limit of 35. I don't think they have that anymore, but I'm not sure that the policy has really changed. And the other one is IMD definitely will accept you at, assuming you meet their other qualifications. 34 would not disqualify you at all. Okay, Chiana asks, I'm 37. If I applied in 2 years, would I be too old for Mba programs at Northwestern, Yale, Wharton? No. Not to my knowledge. So not with current policies. Okay, so here we have from Erica. I'm planning to apply either full-time or evening MBA for career change. I graduated 2 law schools, both in US and Japan, and have 9 years of work experience. Is it too late to apply full-time? You're not really saying how much experience or you have. Oh, you have 9 years of work experience. Say that. You do say that. I think you're going to have to be really clear about why you want an MBA, what you're trying to accomplish. And again, are you going to be relying on the Career Center to find you your job? Some entry-level position, which is very unlikely to hire you when you're in your I'm going to guess you'll be in your late 30s by the time you graduate. That would be a problem. On the other hand, it sounds like you have really interesting experience. I'm going to guess you obviously have experience in both US and Japan. And you're going to have to show the quant skills that lawyers are notoriously lacking. But if you can show those quant skills, you have a reasonable goal, you could be really, really appealing to these programs. And the other programs you may want to consider, again, are the Sloan Fellows variety. Just make sure you have the minimum amount of work experience for them. Okay. Okay. I'm finding it very difficult to answer these kinds of questions. My age is X with X, Y years of work experience. Will I be accepted into this MBA program or that MBA program? Your age is not the only thing that's going to determine if you're going to be accepted or not. So I can't really say if you're going to be. Rubik's Cube asked this question. My age is 36 with 12 years of experience from India. Will I be accepted into an MBA program in Canada? Your age is not the only thing that they're going to look at. Everybody here? You hear me? Apparently there's some kind of outage here. Am I on? Okay.
Yes, Linda, we can hear you.
Hello, hello, hello. Can somebody indicate if they hear me now? Unfortunately, I got booted out. I'm not sure what
Yes,
happened.
Linda, we can hear you. Please
Okay.
go on.
I'm not sure if it was on your end or my end, but something happened. All right, so let's go back to the questions. All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to the questions. A lot of the questions, good questions. Okay. This is from Kim. Hi, Linda. Thanks for speaking to us. I'm 32, but served 3 years in the military. Oh, no, I already did that one. Okay. Let me find one I haven't done. Let me pick up. Okay. Hello. I'm currently 33 years old with 10 years of IT experience. I'm targeting full-time MBA at 34, 35 years of age. UK, it's 1 year. Will I be considered for roles after I graduate at 36, 37? That depends on the roles you're looking for. Again, if you're looking for an entry-level investment banking position that's typically hires 23-year-olds, I think you're going to have a tough time. If you're looking at entry-level consulting positions, unless the job market is very, very tight at that time, I think you're going to have a hard time. So be realistic in your post MBA goals. Okay, most of you are we're getting very few younger applicants here. That's fine. Okay. Kevin writes, I'm 30 right now, but I am still not able to get a good score for the Gmat. Do you think it would be better to apply this year with, let's say, 660, or wait until next year aiming at 720, for example? I think that is somewhat dependent upon the schools you want to attend. If you're aiming at schools that have average GMATs of 720, 730, then you probably need to get a 720. If you're aiming at schools that have average GMATs of, let's say, 680, and you're otherwise competitive, then you can probably wait or apply to programs that have gone test optional, especially if you have good grades and other evidence of the ability to handle the workload of a graduate management program. So Darden has gone test optional. You have to provide a waiver, so fill out a waiver form. And MIT Sloan is now GMAT test optional. And other schools, Columbia and NYU, for example, are accepting the executive assessment as well as the GMAT and GRE. So if you, the executive assessment was initially developed for Mba programs and for people with more work experience and perhaps a little bit further away from tests and studying and things like that. So you may want to consider that. Okay. Karen asked, 31 years old, total 9 years experience in multinational corporations, 6.5 years as a sales manager for a state, and 2.5 years as product manager for 2 regions, but no college achievements. Is this okay? Well, again, I think it depends where you want to go. And without a GPA and test score, I really can't say whether this is okay or not. And without knowing where you're applying, it's another very important issue in determining whether your qualifications are competitive. So it's kind of hard to say. There's nothing in that you wrote that makes me say you can't get into an MBA program. And there's nothing that you wrote that tells me you will get into an MBA program, much less any specific MBA program. So it's a little bit hard to say. Okay, Erica, you added that you're planning for use. I would really look at those Sloan Fellows programs, Erica. Okay, so Maria asks, how are the actual job prospects, career change for international students who look to pursue the MIT Sloan Fellows MBA? I would urge you to look into that program, to talk to international students, to talk to the program representatives as well. MIT Sloan Fellows, to my knowledge, does not have the kind of robust recruiting process that the MIT full-time MBA program has. It does, you will meet people from around the world in the program who maybe will want to hire you. And you obviously have your own network. And so I think what MIT Sloan Fellows Career Services does is prepare you for interviews, help you polish your resume, help you network effectively so that you can take advantage of the people, the connections you're making through the program and your own network to make a career transition. But it's not specifically geared towards facilitating career change like the full-time MBA program. I hope that's somewhat helpful. Okay, Risha asks, what is the ideal work experience required to be accepted to good B schools? Well, I said at the beginning of the presentation, I started out by saying that the typical amount of work experience is 3 to 8 years. Okay, that's normal. 4 to 5 is really very, very much the sweet spot. Through 5 is the average. However, you ask a really interesting question. What is the ideal work experience required? And what I want to, the focus of this presentation has been very much on quantity. But you know what? Quality is actually more important. So quality implies, or requires, I should say, it doesn't imply, it requires growth on the job and growth of responsibilities, not necessarily title, as well as impact. And business schools are always looking for people who are A, leaders, and B, team players. So those are the qualities that you want your work experience to show in order to really be ideal work experience. Okay. Kevin writes, I have 16 years of work experience and strongly considering B school, the executive MBA. I want an MBA because I want to learn and master the concept of what true leadership looks like. I'm in my early 40s. MBA programs would be very interested in you, assuming that you have the other qualities they want. Okay, Kevin? And you could, again, I'm assuming you don't want to leave the workforce, so the executive MBA program is a really good option for you. Okay. Okay, what do we have here? Kriti asks, is 2 years of freelancing experience and total of 5 years of experience a red flag? It depends what you did. If freelancing was a fancy way of saying you were unemployed, it's a red flag. If you can point to real achievement during your freelancing, then it's fine. You were an independent business person. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so let's see. I have full-time MBA from... Now I have a question here. I have a full-time MBA. No, wait, this just bounced. From Symbiosis, been a founder twice, but both did not fly. Currently working at a regional level at Zomato. Do you think a U.S. or outside school would be more relevant to me? You know, what's going to be most relevant to you is the school that's going to help you achieve your post-MBA goal. So you have to look at what you want to accomplish, and obviously you have to put that in there, and then answer which is going to be most relevant. If you want to stay in Europe, I would encourage you to pursue a European MBA program. If you want to stay in the US, I'd encourage you to pursue a US MBA program. If you don't want to stay in either place, then location is really irrelevant, and other elements are going to be far more important to you. But the work you've done is less important. It's not irrelevant, but it's less important than what you want to do when you choose your MBA program. Okay. All right. Augustine asks, I'm an older applicant and close to 40. Do I stand a chance in a full-time MBA program? I am favorably disposed to the one-year programs and specialized tech-focused MBA full-time programs. It's going to be hard. And again, your goal is going to be really, really important. Do you have the network to get a job after your one-year MBA program, or are you going to start your own business? If you are expecting the Career Placement Center which is geared towards people in their late 20s, to place you at a position that typically hires people in their late 20s when you are going to be in your 40s, it's going to be tough to get in. If you're going to rely on your own resources to get the position that you're looking for, then you would have a chance, assuming that you meet the other criteria. It's, again, I don't have any stats on people applying in their late 30s or early 40s to full-time MBA programs, but they do get in sometimes. And, and I don't have any more information. I would, I assume when you talk about the one-year programs and specialized tech-focused MBA, talking about NYU Stern's one-year MBA program or Cornell Johnson's accelerated program. And obviously you have to meet those criteria. Okay. Is it hard to get into good B schools if I already have a master's in engineering degree? I have 4 years work post-master's engineering experience. No. Many people apply to business schools with masters in different fields, including engineering. I forget the statistic. I don't, but it's significant. And again, the Cornell Accelerated program is specifically geared towards people who have masters in other fields. So it's not a problem at all. What you are going to need, though, is to explain what do you want to do that you can't do with the engineering degree only. And it shouldn't be that hard to do. There are lots of things that the MBA is going to prepare you for that your master's in engineering did not, and vice versa. So it's definitely doable. Hi, this is from Anna. I'm 21 years old. I study economics and work as an assistant accountant, 1 full-time plus 2.5 part-time. I assume that's years. At the same do I have any chance to be accepted to any good MBA program? I'm going to guess that you're talking about the deferred admit programs that I discussed at one point and that are increasingly popular. I don't have enough information here to say if you have a chance because you haven't provided test scores, leadership experiences, grades, anything other than the fact that you are studying economics, which is certainly relevant. So I really can't opine. Unfortunately, there's nothing in what you wrote that told me you can't get accepted to a deferred admit program. And there's nothing that you wrote that told me you can get accepted to, or you will get accepted to a deferred admit program. I think it'd be very difficult for you to get accepted right now to a full-time MBA program. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Arjun writes, 13 years of work experience as an entrepreneur, marketing, both B2B and B2C, and finance. Need for MBA, leadership skills, network improvement, and cultural change. Target schools, NYU, BU, UNC, Gmat score 650. Question 1, what are my chances in my target school? Question 2, how are the current internships and job opportunities considering COVID, if you're aware? That's a lot of questions there. Okay, good ones though. Thank you. I think you're going to have a very hard time at NYU. You'd be competitive, more competitive at BU. I think you'd have a hard time at UNC also. And so again, I think BU is your most likely admit. Everything I said about older MBA applicants would hold in terms of realistic goals. And I would strongly encourage you to read that article I told you about older MBA applicants on the accept.com website for more information. You need to make your post-MBA goal much more specific. Once you get the leadership school skills, improve your network, cultural change is not a good one. But for the other ones, what do you hope to accomplish once you improve your leadership skills and network? That's your post-MBA goal. The improvement are really means to an end. So what's the end? And again, the cultural change thing, I'm not sure quite what you mean by it, but it comes off sounding like you just want to meet new people or live in a new place. That's not a good reason for an MBA. So, okay. Let's see what else we have here. Anna gave her GPA is 3.2 and her GMAT score is 670. Then I would say you're better off waiting. Those are not competitive numbers for the deferred admit programs and the programs that I listed. There may be other deferred admit programs that have lower average stats, but the programs that I listed would be, it would be wiser for you to wait and improve those numbers. Okay. Ravier is asking, thank you for the webinar. Should PhD experience be counted as work experience or be listed only as education? In some countries, a PhD is a job, while in others, only education. But your PhD should definitely go under your job. But if you, for example, managed a lab while in your PhD, or you were a TA, a teaching assistant, or a research assistant, well, you wouldn't have been a research assistant, that should go under employment and experience. So you were doing both, basically. Okay, let's see what else we have. Let's see. Utkarsh asks, apart from IMD in Switzerland, which one-year MBA program in the UK or the US accepts applicants in the higher age range of mid-30s? Does your agency provide application services for European business schools? I'll answer the last question first. It's the easiest. Yes, we do. We actually have a consultant in Europe, another one in the UK, and she actually is a former admissions officer at London Business School. So IMD, you mentioned, is one-year program in Europe that accepts older applicants. London Business School Sloan Fellows program also does, and it's a one-year program. INSEAD, it's more lower 30s than mid 30s, but you'd have to check again. They stopped. They used to cut it off at 35. I'm not sure they still do. Or it used to be very much a policy there. I'm not sure it's a reality as opposed to a stated policy. Okay. You're very welcome, Arjun. Let's see. Enactus talks about the deferred MBA. I'm planning for deferred MBA, planning to give GMAT next month. Any thoughts on deferred MBA? I'm guessing that you came late because I did discuss the deferred MBA earlier. And since this is recorded, you're probably just best off looking at the earlier part of the video. Just in brief, for the deferred MBA, you have to be a top-notch student and leader. Basically everything with the MBA programs, but on steroids. I said that earlier. I'll say it again. And with a high GMAT. Okay. You're very welcome, Maria. Bahas writes, I'm 32, now preparing my GMAT, 7+ years experience as a construction architect, project management, looking for a full-time MBA, INSEAD, HEC, looking for a career switch to consulting. Too late? No, you're not too late, as long as you don't wait to apply. Now, if you're talking about INSEAD and HEC, remember that they both emphasize multicultural fluency, international exposure. So I'm going to guess that you have that, but if you don't have that, you could have problems other than your age. Okay. You're very welcome, Enactus. Any other, let's see. Arjun, if you want to try and get your GMAT up, then there might be other options, but your GMAT is an obstacle for you at other programs. Duke comes to mind as being really strong in marketing, but the average GMAT is more like a 690. So it's gonna be tough. Okay. Okay, here's another question that I'm afraid I'm not going to give a very satisfactory answer to. I'm 36. This is from Pratik. I'm 36 years old. I have 14 years of work experience, which include 9 years as an entrepreneur and 5 years in finance, including 1.5 years in Deloitte as a U.S. tax consultant. I'm aiming for 1 year Mba with 720 score. Actually, I think I can answer this. Which schools should I apply to? I would look into the Sloan Fellows programs that I mentioned earlier. MIT Sloan Fellows, Stanford MSX, and London Business School Sloan Fellows. Okay? Maybe IMD. And the reason I was hesitating to give any answer is that you didn't mention what you want to do after your MBA. That really is an important factor. And I could have been stubborn and stuck to my guns, but those are programs that you should look into and see if they're going to help you achieve what you want to achieve. Priyanka asked, does an international master's count as an international experience? I'm not quite sure. Do you mean that you studied abroad for your master's, or that you mean that the master's was in international relations or something like that? Then would clarify that. You're very welcome, Bahas. You're very welcome, Arjun and Pratik. Age 30. This is from Balaj. 35, 12 years work experience in IT, and able to prove on Gmat from 620. Mba is expensive. I'm looking to transition to senior level IT roles, full-time school option for myself, and required Gmat. Thank you. There are programs, there definitely are MBA programs that accept people with 620 Gmats. We tend not to work with those schools as much because there's less competition for them. But UCI comes to mind immediately. Santa Clara comes to mind. Foster has a higher GMAT. So look at those programs. Santa Clara, UCI, maybe Notre Dame. Okay? All right. Okay, Priyanka said that she did study abroad. That does, if you're thinking of INSEAD, that definitely is international exposure and a multicultural experience. So, yeah. Okay. Haritha writes, I'm 35 and an IT product manager. Most experience is in oil and gas and 2 years in IT. I want to move into business development and leadership roles. I have 10 years of work experience. You could look into IMD. You can look into the Sloan Fellows programs. You can look into Stanford MSX. You might check out UT Austin or Rice University for the full-time programs because they are specifically strong in oil and gas if you want to stay in those industries. Obviously, you need competitive test scores there. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Sumrang says, I've passed my BBA in 2016, 2.7 cumulative GPA, work experience of 3 years. Ielts 7, I'm planning to give GMAT, but in Nepal, because of coronavirus, there's no exam for a couple of months. Can you take the remote exam, Suman? In Nepal? I know you can't in China, but I think you can in Nepal if you have the internet for it. I would consider that. And you're going to need a really strong GPA because a 2.7 is a low, really strong GMAT because a 2.7 is a low GPA. You may want to take some classes and earn A's in them remotely. You can do that via US extension courses or something like HBS Core, MBAmath.com, any of those, but you're going to want A's to show that you can actually do the work. Your IELTS, make sure your IELTS is strong enough. I normally see 7.5 as a desired score for IELTS, but if 7 is enough for the schools that you're applying to, that's great. You can't do the remote. Okay. All right. Then you have to wait. No option there. Let's see. Yeah, Chiona asks, can you talk about executive MBA programs and scholarships? Highly unlikely. They are definitely less likely. There are some scholarships for executive MBA, but far fewer than for the regular MBA. Let's see, Vishwana. I apologize if I mispronounce your names, by the way. I'm 33 years old, have a Gmat score of 670. I want to apply for full-time MBA programs at Cambridge and Oxford. I have 7 years of career in sales and want to pivot to marketing or product management. You don't mention your undergraduate record here at all. Your Gmat score, from what I recall, is a little low for these programs. You certainly can apply to them, but they're probably stretch programs. That would be my take. Not out of the question, but might be a little tough. Anna asks, what is a good Gmat score for a good MBA program? That, again, is, I think, a little bit in the eye of the beholder, the good MBA program. There are MBA programs that are ranked in the top 10 for specific specialties. Babson for entrepreneurship, for example. I think Carnegie Mellon for operations. And they have average Gmat scores that are much lower than the top 10. For example, Carnegie Mellon's, I don't have it at my fingertips, but I think it's in the 690s. Babson, I think, is in the 660s for entrepreneurship. I think Notre Dame, maybe it's Purdue, I'd have to look it up, is in the low, under 650, I think, average Gmat score. But I think it's in the, again, for logistics or operations, I think it's in the top 10 U.S. News. Michigan Broad is in the top 10 for supply chain or operations. Again, I don't have it in front of me, but it's up there for those topics. And it has, again, a much lower Gmat score. So my advice, which I think is kind of the question behind the question for you, is to go in and get the highest Gmat score you can, and then see which schools you can apply to where you're going to be competitive based on your grades and your score, and which of these schools support your goal. So, if you, that's my approach. Okay. Okay. Let's see. All right, here's from a younger applicant. Garima says, I'm 24 years old. I have 3 years of experience as an actuarial analyst. My husband is a fellow on the side of actuaries. Yet to take GMAT. I want to move to consultancy or IB. Which MBA program is good for me, and is it too early to apply? Okay. Well, you have 3 years of work experience, so no, it's not too early to apply. I cannot answer which MBA program is good for you because you have not provided a GPA. You haven't provided your GMAT score. You don't know what it is, obviously. You want to move to consultancy or IB, which to a certain extent means you don't really know what you want to do. I don't mean to be mean, but that's not really a goal. You could say a goal would be, I really want to go into management consulting. And if I can't do that, I'd consider investment banking, or I really want to go into investment banking. If I can't do that, I'll do something in financial analysis. But the two fields, they're really different. So you have to clarify and narrow down your goal, and then it's much easier to choose a school, not to mention a field of study or where you're going to want to interview or anything like that. All right. So at the risk of being a little critical, I think you need to clarify that a lot before and narrow it before you even start thinking about goals. And in terms of your 3 years of experience as an actuarial analyst, can you show impact? Can you show achievement, leadership, any of that kind of stuff? Because the top schools are going to be looking for that. I would say it, and not so much based on your experience, but because of the lack of clarity that I'm sensing. And again, I don't mean to be unnecessarily critical here. I would clarify your goal, get your GMAT, study for it, prepare for it well, get the highest score you can, and then decide where to apply. Okay? Okay, let's see what else we have here. I thought I shut that thing off. All right. Let's go. Somebody posted, I'm 20 years old. I have no experience. Can I still apply for a direct MBA? I assume you mean apply. This is Simran. I would advise against it. You at least should have internship experience if you're going to apply either directly to an MBA program or to a deferred admit program. They're going to be looking for that. You also want to be able to show on-campus participation and activism, contribution, not to mention a good GPA and GMAT score. So anyway, just think about that. You're very welcome, Anna. Thank you for your gracious response. I know I was a little bit tough on you. And thank you, Garima, also. You're also being gracious. I appreciate it. Age 33, this is from Abhishek. Age 33, now work experience of 7+ years, specializing in SAP procurement. Planning on giving GMAT and apply for 1 year full-time MBA program for supply chain operations. Which school is preferred? Well, if you have the grades and the test score, though MIT is currently waiving it, I would say MIT Sloan is outstanding. Michigan Broad, Kellogg, University of Michigan. All these programs are really strong in supply chain management. Let's see. Somebody's asking about the good executive assessment score for Columbia Business School or NYU. You know, I haven't seen stats on that, so I don't know the answer. Okay, you're very welcome. All right, RS writes, I'm a first-generation entrepreneur. I have 10 years of entrepreneurship experience with $2 million turnover, planning for MBA programs from M7 and Ivy League only, but GPA down. Try for GMAT better. Well, that sounds like a good idea. Your experience sounds really good, and that will count. If your grades were good and you do get a good test score, then that will also mitigate it. Now, one of the things we work with on our applicant with our clients is frequently mitigating the impact of either a low GMAT or GPA. And there also was a podcast that I did, and you can find that at accepted.com/137 on how to mitigate the impact of a low GPA. So yeah, a high GMAT will definitely help. But anyway, again, accepted.com/137, a whole podcast just on mitigating the impact of a low GPA. And I recommend that to you. Okay. I'm 35, 12 years work experience in entertainment, 3.78 undergrad GPA, looking at NYU and UCLA. Will a 690 GMAT be competitive? Thanks. It's on the low side. I'd also encourage you to consider USC. Great connections to the entertainment industry in Los Angeles, and a little bit lower average GMAT. So definitely apply to UCLA and NYU. Give them a go. Makes perfect sense. But I'd also include USC on your list. You're very welcome, Abhishek. Let's see. 31-year-old female architect. I just did this. Oh, no, I didn't. This is a different person. 31 female architect and construction project manager with 7.5 years of work experience and a PGP in construction management. GMAT score is 720 and a 3.6 GPA, which would be an ideal school to apply to. Also, it will be possible to switch profiles at this point within real estate. I don't know what you mean by that. And you need to let me know what you want to do post-MBA, or I can't recommend schools. Okay, it's really hard to recommend schools if you don't let me know what you want to do. I did it a little bit earlier, but especially with full-time programs, it's much more difficult because the options are much greater. So let's see if Aditi's going to let me know that. Dipanshu, dear Linda, greetings. I have 8 years of work experience. I've worked in project sustainability and project management with global leadership in cement manufacture. I have a master's degree in highway engineering, a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. GRE scores 329. Excellent. Could you please suggest the schools I should apply to? I'm really sorry, folks. If you're going to ask me what schools to suggest, you have to tell me your post MBA goal. Okay, I'm gonna get stubborn. All right, this is Kanish Karaj. Hi, Linda, 33, working on IT services for 12 years in the same company, but I have a very good career progression. Good for you. Does this count as not having diversified work experience? Well, if you've had good career progression, presumably you've also diversified your responsibilities. So I would, it doesn't, I mean, I can't say based on what you wrote, but it sure sounds like if you have good career progression, presumably you've also not doing the same thing for the last 12 years. All right, let's go on. Hello, ma'am. Glad to connect with you. You're not going to be glad when I'm a commerce graduate, 5.38 GPA with a 2.6 years of experience with BNP Paribas and global markets. Want to pursue my career in front office, middle office, IB. I'm planning for Gmat and will give it in December 2020. Looking for PR in Canada. Can you recommend B school name? Thank you. Well, was the 5.38 on the 10-point scale? Because if it was, that's a low GPA. And you're going to need a really, really high GMAT score and some very impressive work experience at BNP Paribas in order to compete at the better business schools in Canada. I'm not sure what you mean by PR in Canada, unless you mean communications. So I need to clarify that a little bit. Okay, let's one more. Age 25, 3 years as a lead purchaser in a manufacturing company, undergrad in chemical engineering, target GMAT score 700. Looking for energy consulting post MBA. Again, this jumped. Please hint about Canadian B schools. I would look at Rotman, first of all. Maybe Ivy, McGill. And I in the U.S., if you'd consider U.S. school, I'd look at UT Austin and Duke and Rice. Okay. Okay, Suman asks, if luckily Nepal government permits to give GMAT exam by December, can I still be able to apply MBA for September 2021? Yes, you can. Also realize that some schools are going test optional. So far, UVA is test optional. MIT Sloan is test optional. I think Georgia Tech. There are several schools that have gone. I think the University of Wisconsin MBA program has gone test optional. Poets and Quants has an article on that. We will be having one soon. We don't have it yet. So, check those out. And then you could easily apply for September 2021. Oh, permanent residency. Okay, so let's go back to your post. Yeah, again, and was that the 5.3 on the 10-point scale? Yeah, that's a pretty low Gmat, unfortunately. And again, I don't mean to be mean. I would take a look at accept.com/137 for advice on mitigating the impact of a low GPA, and then get a nice high Gmat score. Provide context for the GPA. Well, you'll see. Just listen to that. And you may be better off waiting a year or two more to put some more distance between you and your GPA, and hopefully high performance on the job will also mitigate. Let's see. All right, Sayan asks, I have 3 years of work experience in IT, finance, and consulting, and I'm 24 years old, prepping for European MBA, especially UK and HEC. Given average A's is 30, 32 in the EU, should I wait? I would say yes. I think the UK is a little bit more accepting of younger applicants, but if I were you, I would wait. Okay. Let's see. RS asks about maximum. I think I addressed this. How maximizing chances with low GPA and 10 years of entrepreneurship experience. Again, in terms of low GPA, I'd refer you to accept.com/137. In terms of the 10 years of entrepreneurship experience, you've shown initiative, you've shown organizational skills. If you've grown an entrepreneurial venture, you've shown leadership. You presumably are working with colleagues, so you can show teamwork. All those things should be coming out. This is what we help our clients do in their applications and their essays. So, growth of not all entrepreneurial ventures are going to be successful, and that schools know that, but they can still be learning experiences. So hopefully some of your ventures were successful, if not most of them. And then you can talk about the success, but you can also talk about the learning from failure and show resilience and initiative. There's lots you can do with 10 years of entrepreneurial experience. You also need to have, though, a clear reason for why you want your MBA. And that can be that you saw holes in your skill set as you were growing your businesses and involved in entrepreneurship. Okay, so Aditi came back. Hello again, architect plus construction manager. Thank you for answering. I would want to make profile switch to operations finance, like work for Amazon, Walmart, Big Four consultancies in US or APAC. Okay, that still is pretty broad range of things that you want to do. I'd strongly encourage you to narrow it down. Your GMAT score and GPA, will give, and the fact that you're a woman will also help you. And your experience, as long as you can show growth, will again help you. So schools that will be good for you: Michigan Ross, NYU Stern, Columbia, Yale. Well, maybe not Yale so much. Yeah, Yale, Cornell Johnson. Those will all be good programs for you to look into. MIT Sloan. Yeah, for sure. MIT Sloan and CMU Tepper. From Swapnil, hi, 24, 1 year of experience with KPMG and 3 years of experience at my own family business. Certainly a low undergrad percentage was 61.4%, planning for my GMAT in December. Okay. Were you working for your family business while going to school? Is that how you have 3 years? Is that before you started at KPMG? I'm going to assume so. You're going to have to address that low GPA. And again, I'll refer you to the podcast, accept.com/137. So in terms of where you didn't give a goal, so it's kind of hard for me to recommend any schools. But in terms of addressing the low GPA, I would look at that podcast, accept.com/137. I also would wait to apply because, again, it'll put more distance between your application and your undergraduate record. It'll give you opportunity to mitigate that undergraduate record and to establish a record of achievement at KPMG and wherever else you work prior to application. Okay, RS asks, does the undergraduate university matter, specifically for Indian universities? The undergraduate university is one factor that schools will look at, definitely. It probably, if the school is a well-known school, a known, respected school for rigor and academic excellence, then your grades are going to count a little bit more, and especially if they're high. If it's not known for rigor, then your test score is probably going to be more important, and they're going to expect high grades also. Okay, James asks, can you think of any schools with good accessibility for a student who uses a wheelchair? I'm hoping for 700 Gmat. Most business schools have, at this point, really worked on accessibility. You may want to, we've worked with applicants who were in wheelchairs. I can remember one attending Harvard despite the climate. I remember another one wasn't in a wheelchair, but he had that tremendous difficulty walking, and he was accepted to some schools in cold climates and chose to attend UCLA because it was, he didn't have to deal with as much rain and obviously no snow or sleet. So I don't know of any schools that are particularly good, but most schools have, accessibility, made arrangements for accessibility for people in wheelchairs. So I would check it out so that you don't waste your time applying to schools that are not going to be good for you. But I don't think that's going to be a major issue. Okay. Let's see. If you're interested in our services, we do offer a profile evaluation service. It's not so much profile. It's not really a profile evaluation service. I mean, we can do that certainly on a paid basis, but I don't think that's what you're asking. That's a 1 hour consultation. Definitely possible with one of our staff. Let's see. Here's Mert writes, 33, iBanking BP at ICBC in Turkey, had executive master's in finance at INSEAD while working in Singapore. Post-grad goal is iBanking in US, UK. Which school should I prefer round 1 rather than 2 for MIT, UVA? Well, I guess you're planning to apply to MIT and UVA, and you're hoping to take advantage of the test waiver. That's my guess. I would, if you can, I'm not sure you'll be able to get in a round 1 application for MIT or UVA because their round 1 deadlines have probably passed or are too soon for you to do a good job on the application. And in that case, obviously, round 2 is the only option. I would definitely go for that. Look into London Business School. Look into Columbia, Tuck. Let's see. You might want to look at MIT. I guess you are looking at MIT, NYU Stern, Chicago Booth, any of those programs. Yale. Okay. Hope that helps. Let's see. This is from AP. 8 years in shipping. Okay, 8 years in shipping operations, looking to switch careers via supply chain specialization into e-commerce logistics like Amazon. Gmat 660, I'm 32 right now. What are your thoughts? I think you need to raise your Gmat if you want to apply to a top program. You could look at a program like, I would check out I'm not familiar with this part of the program, the supply chain program at Foster, which feeds Amazon. If you don't want to retake or raise your Gmat, you may look into the executive assessment for those programs that will consider that program. Or you may try and apply without a Gmat score to MIT right now if you have really good grades, because they are excellent in operations. And definitely Amazon recruits at MIT, so that could be a really good opportunity for you. I think Amazon also recruits at UVA, which again is test optional. You may also check that out at Georgia Tech. Okay, so look into that, because right now that Gmat score would be a problem. You're very welcome, Mert. If you want to have RS is asking how can you contact for a consultation, go to accepted.com/MBA/services. Actually, let me look this up, the exact URL. Just 1 second. All right. For a consultation. accepted.com/MBA/services is all our services. For just add -consulting and you'll be able to purchase a 1-hour consultation and get a complete profile evaluation. Okay, RS, again, that's accepted.com/MBA/services for access to all our services. accepted.com/MBA/services/consulting for the profile evaluation and 1 hour and 1 hour of consulting. Okay. Geeky Roger, I responded to your question earlier. Manoj Roy writes, I have an entrepreneurial experience of more than 14 years, but I struggled in it to make profit out of it because I was finding it difficult to find proper market for my invention. The technology is patented in India. I have a GPA of 3.0. Will the school look out for the effort and learning that I have gone through while I was in my entrepreneurial journey? Is it possible for me to get into top B schools, most top 10 or 20 in the US? What kind of GMAT score is needed to get in? Okay. They will definitely consider what you've learned on your entrepreneurial journey, but that's not going to be the sole thing that they're looking for. They're going to look at your grades. They're going to look at your post-MBA goals. They're going to look for some level of achievement. Obviously, getting a patent is one level of achievement. And they're also going to, again, look at your GMAT score. So don't ignore those factors. And again, I really can't recommend schools what kind of GMAT score you need to be competitive in the top 20. It's really hard to say without, well, you did say your GPA is 3.0. I would say you need an above average GPA with a GMAT score with a 3.0. So look at and there is a range of GMAT scores in the top 10 to 20. you're probably going to want something above, something with a 7 in it, okay? Because the range is probably 670 to 690, 700. So if you want an above average GMAT score to kind of combat the GPA, then you're going to need an above average score. You're also, with 14 years of work experience, you're probably going to be better off taking the executive assessment if you can. And I would strongly suggest that you consider I'm not sure the Sloan Fellows programs are they probably would prefer more successful entrepreneurs, but it's going to be a little bit tough for you. Okay. I think I'm going to take one more. You folks are asking great questions. But I think we're well over. So I think we're going to bring this to a close. Yurlin writes, I'm 36 and cannot make a decision on applying to MBA. I've got 2 professional Masters of Science degrees and occupy a good position, but for future, think about MBA. Which MBA program is suitable for mature profile? I would encourage you to listen to the beginning of the recording. I talked there about Sloan Fellows programs, and that probably is what you're looking at. The MIT Sloan Fellows, London Business School Sloan Fellows, Stanford MSX, or the non-Sloan Fellows IMD program. But go back to the early part of the recording. And with that, I just want to thank you again for your time, your participation, your questions. It's been a great audience. And I think it's time to call it a day. If you are interested in the 2 free resources, I've mentioned several resources at this point. I'm going to again mention the quiz. It's accept.com/MBA quiz, which you'll get an assessment of your chances of acceptance, as well as suggestions for improvement in areas of weakness. And then if you're interested in the deferred MBA programs, it's accept.com/DEF MBA quiz. Okay, so that's accept.com/DEF MBA quiz. Again, thank you very much for coming. Several of you are thanking me, so you're most welcome. I've had a good time. You asked great questions, and you're very welcome, all of you. I'm sorry if I sometimes gave you some news you didn't like, but you're asking my opinion and my thoughts, so I shared them. Have a very good weekend. Thank you again. You're most welcome. Take care. And thank you to the GMAT Club, yes, for hosting this.